Hello, and welcome to the four dimensions of equine wisdom and wellness. The purpose of this training is to bring you new awareness around improving your horse's quality of life by balancing what I call their wellness stool. If you don't know me, I'm Pamela Maynard. I'm a published author and researcher, a certified equine bodyworker, energy facilitator, and I am passionate about educating horse lovers on holistic approaches to horse health and how to deepen our connection with these amazing creatures. One thing that's always been consistent in my life is horses. I can't remember a time I wasn't passionate about horses, health, and relationships with them. And I imagine if you are listening to this mini training right now, you are probably as passionate about horses as I am. This work that I do is really about focusing on creating health and getting the horse or any animal for that matter as healthy as possible so that dis-ease cannot exist. I'm all about creating balance because I know that we love our animals so much and we have a lot of time, money, energy, and emotions invested in them. And we want them to live well into their senior years. We want them to have quality of life in their senior years. And I think I can speak for most people that we want to have connection with them. And if they don't feel good, they're not going to want to connect with us. One of my most influential teachers in my holistic school of training has taught me that health is a three legged stool: physical, chemical, and emotional. And when one of the legs isn't balanced, the stool tips over. Well, I added a fourth leg to my stool because I think four legs are sturdier than three. But I also believe that the barn is my church and the horses are my spiritual practice. So I just feel like the fourth leg of the stool is our spiritual leg. And I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about that true, deep, energetic connection we have with these amazing sentient beings on a soul level. So it doesn't matter if my horses are detoxed, free of chemicals, and physically and emotionally balanced. Unless my spiritual leg is intact, there's still something missing. So the first leg of the stool is the physical leg. And this leg really can trump all the other legs of the stool because, if your horse breaks a leg, it's going to have emotional stress and spiritual stress, and detoxing it isn't going to fix the broken leg. And we can, wish it well, but it's still it's still a structure controls function type of thing. It's also about muscle integrity. It's about the withers, stifles, hocks. Are the hips even? Are the hoof angles balanced? Teeth and hooves and vitamin and mineral balance are absolutely imperative to the physical leg of the stool. Everything needs to be in balance for optimal health and well being. And when we talk about the physical, it kind of runs over into the chemical. They're all interrelated. And when I do my intuitive wellness readings, I always ask what's the primary health concern with the animal and what's the secondary health concern. And 9 times out of 10, chemical and emotional come up because if they're toxic, we can't get them physically better. If they're emotionally imbalanced, we know emotions turn into physical things. And there's so many things nowadays when it comes to chemicals. And I believe that people are just really unaware of how many chemicals and toxins their horses are being exposed to, whether it's fly sprays, fly spray systems, even just spraying chemicals around the barn on weeds, and agriculture chemicals end up in our horse feeds, including grains and hay cubes and pellets. I'm seeing more and more they're using things like canola oil for preservatives, which canola oil is super toxic and inflammatory. We're dealing with chemical dewormers that really can stress a horse's health. And even crappy plastic buckets or rubber feed pans can leach chemicals into our horse feeds that and food that we really don't always think about. And then to top it off, we have synthetic ingredients in grains and supplements. It's not uncommon for sweet feeds to have toxic mold inhibitors. And then we have our water, right? City water has chlorine in it. And all these chemicals build up in our horses' systems and they create the physical stress, which includes a congested liver. So the Chinese have a saying in acupuncture, would you rather drink from a running brook or a stagnant pond? Right? So if your liver's congested, you have chemical toxicity, that life force energy of chi cannot flow. And you're going to have a stagnant pond going on. The third leg on our wellness stool is the emotional leg. Emotional well being is really the cherry on the cheesecake and is often overlooked. Emotional health is what brings it all together. Does your horse get enough playtime? Turnout, pasture, grazing, rubbing? Does your horse get to be out with other horses and do they get to groom each other and, scratch each other's withers? Do you spend time rubbing on your horse and grooming him or her? Do they get to have positive interactions or are they just being pulled out of the 12 by 12 stall at the trainer's lunged, rode, and thrown back in the stall? When emotions aren't addressed, health and healing can't really exist. When I do a bioenergy analysis on the horse, I always ask if the emotions belong to the horse or if they're being taken on by something else or someone else because we know that horses mirror our emotions. So why wouldn't they take on our stress and store it in their bodies? What about when you have a bad day at work and you take it on your horse when he or she doesn't do something the way you thought it should be done? We've all experienced it. If something goes wrong, a person takes it on the horse. They whip it, they jerk it, they smack it, they yell a few choice words, right? But at the heart of our hearts, we know deep down it isn't always just the horse's fault, right? If they're not emotionally balanced, if they're not physically balanced, I see horses, if they're nutritionally imbalanced, they sometimes act wiggy and stupid and are spookier than a balanced horse. So these are all things to take into consideration. But when I talk about taking on the horse's stuff, this is how it interconnects, or taking on the horse taking on the owner's stuff, it interconnects with that spiritual leg that I was talking about, right? Like, what is our spirit and our energy when we show up for these horses? Are we being present? Are we leaving work at work? Are we leaving our cell phone in the barn? Like, what is that? What is our life force energy? Do we have a super low, heavy energy we're carrying around that our horses can feel? Or are we being present and light and making a point to be grounded when we're around them? It's that, the spirit part that I'm talking, that's that energetic connection between us. It's that feeling of that perfect canter departure. maybe a flawless transition, or when you like nail that lead change. It's not just great timing, it's a connection of spirits. It's the spirit and energy that I show up with when I'm in the presence of my horses. Sometimes it's thought of as chi or prana, but it's just that life force energy. And it's that piece that takes our relationship with our horses to a deeper level. And horses teach us to be in the present. And this is where the healing begins. I have a youngster, and if I'm not being present with him, let's say if I'm talking on the phone while I'm cleaning his pen or something, he reminds me. He comes up to me and he's like, "Hello, you're not being present with me." So it's really about taking the time to connect with them and checking in with our own emotions and our own health and well being, how we're showing up, and paying attention and observing the obvious. Is the horse reacting to us? So here's the thing, horses and people too are going to have bad days, they're going to have health crises. It happens, things happen. But when we go into these situations healthy, we have a better chance of coming out of them quicker and better. Stress is stress. Sometimes you won't even notice anything wrong until after the fact. And then we're like, we have this weird flaky skin patch that showed up on our withers or our hind end just out of the blue, or my horse just popped up lame overnight, or all of a sudden got an abscess. But we never consider what happened 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago, or even, what's been going on in this horse's life for the last 5 or 10 years. Chemicals build up in the system, and the body can process them for a while, but eventually the chemicals will manifest into allergies, abscesses, even respiratory problems. The emotional stress from the horse not getting turned out enough or being in a herd with no stability can manifest into physical issues. Even a saddle that doesn't fit, it might take 6 months before the horse shows signs of this. And we're like, oh, he's just all of a sudden came up lame overnight, but it was 6 months in the making. So here's the thing, health doesn't happen overnight. It used to. 30 years ago, health was created quicker, and all we had to do is switch the feed, balance the feet, get the teeth done, and add the right nutrition and clear the liver. It used to be a lot easier, but it's getting more difficult with all the electromagnetics we have going on. There's more and more GMO feed products that are coming through, and more chemicals are being put into our environment. We have a lot of feed supplements out there, but they use the allopathic diagnostic system to create a vitamin or even an herbal supplement. And all this approach does is chase symptomology. It's not about creating health. I believe wholeheartedly that our health and the health of our horses is directly interconnected. When one of our horses is sick, it stresses us out. If we aren't healthy, we can't take care of our horses. We also know that horses mirror our emotions and they live in the present moment. So, how are you showing up for your horse? Are you leaving the stress from your job at the office, or are you bringing it with you to the barn? Are you doing the inner work and learning how to regulate your emotions so that you don't take them out on your horse? I find that I can fix a horse, I can help a horse, and I can get it healthy to a certain degree, But when the owner isn't healthy or the rider is really messed up physically or emotionally, it's really hard to fix the horse. Even if they're not riding the horse, it can still be a challenge because the horse takes on the energy and the emotions of their owners. This is the interconnectedness of our health and the health of our horses. However, I think we always need to be open to miracles. Creating health might take a week, it might take a couple weeks, it could take a month, it could take 6 months, or it might take a year. I've observed horses taking years to detox because they aren't just detoxing, they're constantly being re exposed while trying to detox. However, when it happens, it's always a miracle, especially after a lifetime of improper nutrition, power tools to the teeth, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, imbalanced hooves, vaccine injuries, chemical toxicity, the list goes on and on. A lot of the creating health process is believing in yourself and believing in your horse. So, if you're interested in improving your horse's overall quality of life through holistic care and balancing your four legged wellness stool and building your wellness toolbox so you know how to balance your wellness stool, consider this my personal invitation for you to join me in my private arena. Let's go for a ride down an embodied path of soul centered equine practices, equine health and wellness, intuitive healing, and more. So, what's the next step for you? Well, I invited you in my arena. This might look like showing up for the next human animal wisdom circle, or you can feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help answer any questions. I do custom wellness plans. And make sure you go to conscioushoofbeat.com and look under other products and services and let me know how I can support you and your horse on your holistic wellness journey.